Hey everyone, this is John Schwabish from PolicyViz coming to you with another dataviz critique. This one from the Financial Times in a story from late February 2021. Racial inequality plagues the U.S. vaccine rollout, written by Christine Zhang, who appeared on the PolicyViz podcast a few months ago, and Claire Bushey. And let's scroll down and take a look here. We've got a longer piece here than some of the other critiques that I've done, but I really like this one. Combination of a bunch of different things. Let's take each one step by step. So the first visualization we have here is a set of choropleth maps of Chicago showing the COVID deaths. So for example, over here we have COVID deaths on the first map, and then we've got the percentage of people who are Black or Latino. Now, let's talk about a few things here. First off, I love the annotation. I think the Financial Times may do the best type of annotation, especially with static visualizations that are out there. I mean, just the swoopy arrow itself is just like a lovely little touch. It kind of softens the whole thing, I think, rather than like a straight line all the time that we see so often. The visualizations are also nicely done, that they're choropleth maps going from a light blue to a dark blue and well designed and annotated on each side of the map. Really nicely done. Now, the challenge, of course, is that when I'm trying to look at the relationship between COVID deaths here are concentrated on the south and west side, so down here, and look at the relationship between demographics, I kind of have to jump back and forth to really see that relationship. And the maps don't necessarily make that so easy to do. So one additional visualization that the Times could have considered including would be like a scatter plot. I'm going to go back to a visualization redesign I did a few years ago of a visualization from Sarah Slobin when she was at Quartz, looking at the relationship between the slave population in Alabama in 1860 relative to people who voted for Doug Jones in the special election in 2017. And Slobin was making the case that you can see this track running right through the center of the state, east to west. But again, you sort of have to jump back and forth a little bit to see those correlations or that relationship. So I remade this as a scatter plot so that you can see the relationship of the number or share of people who are enslaved versus the vote share. And you can see that relationship right here. I mean, it's just clear to see. Do you have to do one or the other? No, absolutely not. You could just do both, right? Maybe you just include both visualizations. But let's go back to the Times visualization. Again, this is for Chicago. If we scroll down a little bit further, we get Washington, D.C. Now here, we get basically the same approach, the same storytelling approach going left to right. But notice here we have far fewer geographic areas here. There's just fewer wards in Washington, D.C. than the geographic areas in Chicago. So I can very quickly see the correlations here, or the relationships here between the southeastern part of D.C. here for the demographic distribution and for the COVID death rates over here. And again, in these second two maps in the northwest part of the city. So we get this, it's a little bit easier here because we just have fewer observations or fewer geographic units. Here we get to Baltimore, same kind of thing. Again, we're just walking through. Is it easy for me to compare across cities? No, but that's clearly not what they're driving at. That's really not the focal point of this article. We're comparing within these individual cities. Similarly, they do the same thing for South King County around Seattle. Again, if you live in these areas, in these cities, these maps are going to be more familiar to you. You're going to be familiar with this county down here if you live in this particular area. And so this might you might really relate to these visualizations, to these maps. But for someone, for example, for me, I don't live in Seattle, I don't live in Chicago. My eye has to jump back and forth to really see these relationships. But I love the way that they've added all the annotation. The color is really well done. The consistency across the visualizations, the two blue maps on the left here for the New York City area and the two green maps on the right really make this a really nice visualization. And then as we get down to the bottom, we have a really nice bar chart that just lays out the entire thing in terms of people getting their doses of the vaccine. So I really like this piece from the Financial Times, from Christine, and from Claire. I think maybe adding a scatter plot could have been helpful, but not necessary. It's one of those really nice pieces. And again, how you perceive the data is often, especially with maps, is going to depend on your experience and your background and your familiarity with those particular geographic areas. So I hope this is a useful critique. This is John Schwabish from policyviz.com.